press record, you piece of shit.
Hello and welcome to the QUACKCAST. This is QUACKCAST number 582. I'm Ozone Ocean, which means Tance, Baines, and Pitface.
Hey.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. So here we are, Back to the Future. We're talking about time travel in this particular QUACKCAST. Time travel in stories and the problems and the things you run into, but also the fun of time travel and how awesome it can be. It can be so just glorious. But before we get into that, I have to bring up the featured comic. And here's QUACKCAST with her featured comic.
Hello, this is QUACKCAST, and the feature I've selected for this week is Sad W by Stavix, and it is rated E for everyone. Water cooler gossip and rough days at work result in many indoor evenings at home filled with video games. Solemn Sad Blue W is best friends with Mad Red M, an online streamer. Watch Sad W battle against servers of name-calling gamers and less-than-favorite game picks in exchange for the aspiration to become a popular streamer. Real-world adventures ensue when W battles a monster pirate R while searching the public sewers for sympathetic Y's car keys. A 2x2 comic strip format in full color. Watch Sad W's Zangief defeat Mad M's Guile, and read Sad W by Stavix, rated E.
Thank you so much for that, Quark. Okay, so next up we got the featured music by Mr. Gun Wallace. Gun Wallace has for us today Rat Test Blues. Gun Wallace doing his own thing here. The dangers and worries of COVID-19 are universal, and New Zealand is no exception. Here, Mr. Gun Wallace gives voice to his and all our apprehensions when faced with a malady. When there's a pandemic about, do I have COVID or just a cold? Only the rapid antigen test can say for sure. Awesome blues number. That guitar roars and sings, and Gun Wallace's vocals are perfect. So take it away, Gun Wallace, with Rat Test Blues. And that was the featured music. Thank you very much for that, Mr. Gun Wallace. Okay, so next up we're chatting about a future, Back to the Future,
Time traveling.
time
That's
travel.
the word that you're looking for.
That's it. Yeah, not Back to the Future. Back to the Future is an example of this, but it's only one of a million examples of a great theme of story, time travel. When I was growing up, there was a whole heap of time travel stuff. It was just one of the most popular genres. You know, before Bill and Ted or Back to the Future, there was I think Future People, which was about, you know, these people from the future coming back into the past to get rid of kind of weird energies or aliens or something like that that had were ruining the world. Tomorrow People, the Tomorrow People, yeah, it was awesome. And there's a lot of stories about people in the present sort of going into this past worlds. I think maybe the Secret Garden. No, that was about a literal secret garden. But there was
that would have been good for the last cast.
There was a story about this manor house where someone was, and they were living there, and I think this kid had to go and stay there because he was ill or something, and some weird things would happen, and it turned out that this little boy or little girl, I couldn't remember, could actually slip back in time and end up in the same manor house when it was like, in the 19th century or something, and talk to all the servants and little princess that lived there back then, and view the same house but how it was in its prime. And that was a fascinating story. Famous Australian movie from the 80s, Playing Beatty Bow. This is about a girl in Sydney, I think, and she travels back in time to the time of the convicts, and meets this girl called Beatty Bow, who is a ghost in her time, in this other girl's time in the future, or in the present, but she's actually a real person back in the convict time, and this girl kind of slips back in the past and has to cope with the world as it was then. So yeah, there's so much time travel stuff when I was little.
Oh, did you have Land of the Lost?
Is that about dinosaurs and stuff?
It's about sorry. It's about a family, and I forget how, but they're sent back in time, and yeah, they have to live in like the time of like dinosaurs.
Oh,
the whole series they're all like that. I don't remember much of it, but basically through the whole thing, they're trying to get home, and they meet a sexy cave woman and befriend her. And but it was made in like the 70s, I think. Yeah, cool. And it's just basically about them trying to get home, trying not to get eaten, stuff like that.
That's glorious. How did they travel back in time?
I don't recall. Yeah. In the 70s, they probably did too much drugs.
Because in time travel stories, the first thing you have to work out is how the people are going to travel. Whether it's like Doctor Who in the TARDIS, and however the hell that works, no one knows. It's a big thing in the middle of the console, goes up and down, and it makes a noise, and then it travels. That's how it works. Oh, it's like Bill and Ted. How did they travel in time? Like they
telephone booth.
Yeah, but it's a magic telephone booth, so it's not a scientific thing.
So yeah, they don't really say whether it's magic or scientific. It's made by the people in the future, so it makes me think it's more scientific because it's got an antenna on the top, and then the antenna breaks, and then so in the first one they go back in time.
It is because George Carlin or whoever he is goes back in time and starts it off. So he's the one that brings the technology back.
Yeah, because they need Bill and Ted to so I forget whether it's Bill or Ted. One of them is is on the verge of being shipped off to military school because they're doing very poorly in school. And if that happens, it means the band's broken up, which means that they never get to make the song that saves the world, basically, or brings peace to the world. So, so George Carlin's character, who is a very cool person from the future, and everybody that we see from the future there looks very, very cool. One of my favorite feature scenes from a movie ever. And
looks like Houses of the Holy, the cover of Houses.
Yeah. I think they say that. Yeah, they say that in there. And but anyway, so they have the phone booth, and it's it looks like a phone booth inside. That you go to places by dialing the numbers right on the phone, and they actually have a phone book that you have to look up where you want to go in time. Um, and then at one point, as they're going through time, the antenna breaks, and so they have to chew a bunch of chewing gum, and they work together with the people of the past that they've got, Abraham Lincoln and stuff, Genghis Khan, to like use the chewed up bubblegum to put the antenna back together. So like it's not a magical thing. I think it's more of a scientific thing there, but it's just, like
You're right.
kind of stretched. Yeah, it's more of a comedic kind of thing. Yeah.
Magic science in the sense like
No.
Yeah. No?
I mean, if you call it that, if you feel so, yeah. I think it's more.
It's more the Arthur C. Clarke kind of thing, in that it's so advanced that it seems magical to us because it's too advanced for us to know how it works.
Yeah. I know. I think that's fair to say. Like, it doesn't make sense. So if we were to relate it to our world, it would have to be magical in that sense. So, but yeah, I mean, whatever you want to call it. I don't have a horse in this race, but.
Those are a good couple. There's 3 of them, isn't there? Now I haven't seen the 3rd film, so
I have.
Have you? No spoilers.
No.
I have 2. I don't remember much about it really. It was okay.
The second one was fun.
Yeah.
Because it kind of went outside of time traveling, and they actually do because they die. So they actually go to hell and stuff.
That's
and then,
why I was thinking the magical stuff.
Yeah.
I conflated that with the first one, but that's not in the first one.
That's more supernatural, the second one, yeah. And then they kind of go all over the place. And I'm remembering it as we talk about it because, there they get, the Grim Reaper and then those 2 weird guys that they call Station for whatever reason, that form into that one great big guy. And then it was Bill and Ted, and then they make the band at the end. Yeah. And then the 2 princesses are there from the first one. So they're living with them in the 80s. And
someone builds robot Bill and Ted's.
Yeah, evil us's. Yep.
Evil robot us's.
Yeah. And then they build the good ones, the good robot us.
Oh, that's right. The good robot us.
Wow, this movie. It was so good, though.
It's so many good things.
They're not necessarily based, they're not Back to the Future, right? They're not based on time travel, really. The first one is. But,
yeah.
And there's a time travel element in the last one, I think. I don't really remember how the last one worked plot-wise. It was pretty crazy.
The second one is heavily based in time travel still, even though it's got supernatural stuff. They still go backwards and forwards and stuff.
Yeah, I don't remember it well either, really.
To change the plot of how things go,
Oh, right. Or wait. No, I'm thinking of the first one again.
At the end of the first one, they have a lot of fun with the time travel thing. We'll go take care of this after we do our project and finish the movie, so to if you will.
Yeah.
We finish with everything, we'll go back and we'll do all this stuff we need to do. Remember a trash can.
Yeah. And then we'll go back and we'll put the keys here. And then they turn around and they go and they grab the keys because they from the other time had come back and done it and left the keys for them. It was so fun.
Really fun, a mind bender. Yeah, really fun.
Well, that brings to mind a very important subject with time travel. It's paradoxes. So when you have a time travel story, you run into paradoxes if you're going backwards and forwards in time, that is, and those can trip you up, and those can ruin your story because the plot holes become so big that even you don't even have to be a nerd to be annoyed by it because it's just it's annoying. But if you do it right, it can be really rewarding, like in Bill and Ted with their there's the keys. They deliberately played on that whole thing. And I was thinking the other day, I watched, I've been going through slowly Futurama. And Futurama is a time travel story in that Fry travels 1,000,000 years into the future, 1,000 years into the future. I can't remember, many years into the future. Because
it's 1,000.
Yeah. But throughout the story, there's spits and spots where he travels backwards and forwards, and you don't realize how often he travels back to that moment where he gets frozen. A hell of a bunch of times. And throughout that, there's a whole bunch of different story threads get generated. Like there's this little dog that is waiting for him, and he fed it every and then it dies.
The
and
sad episode.
That's so sad. And that keeps happening. There's all these kind of like callbacks and like, you know, travel backwards and forwards. And as I was watching it all the way through, like in one of the latest seasons, they start doing movies for some reason. I think they got it went off Fox and went to Hulu or something like that. I can't remember. And there's one particular series that is a movie actually went and it seriously went through and fixed up any plot holes and made everything make sense. So all the stuff that when he traveled back in time and did this and did that and went backwards and forwards, it actually like was showing you how all that worked, and then it showed you what happened to the dog. And so the dog doesn't sort of die sadly. It dies being blown up in an explosion that destroys the pizza. And it was really clever, you know, doing that and undoing any paradoxes or making them make sense. It can be like it rewards the viewer for kind of remembering different, you know, times when the characters have done this kind of stuff, and it enriches the story. So it can make sense to sort of, you know, have a look at your paradoxes and see whether things make sense or not.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Futurama is a great example. And we don't think of that as a time travel story, and it basically is.
Yeah, it is, because, yeah, you're right. Because the whole basis for it is that Fry's from the stupid times. So that's why we have a story.
Ages. That's right.
Yeah, the stupid ages.
The stupid ages.
And the whole basis, is like a Rip Van Winkle.
Yeah,
right?
You're right. Yeah, Rip Van Winkle
is asleep for 1,000 years and wakes up. Which that, you know, until later when you introduce the time travel stuff, that is a way to do it paradox free. The time travel story with no paradox, right? You just fall asleep or are frozen, whatever, cryogenically.
Which makes me think of the end, one of the two endings for Evil Dead 3.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I guess in both endings they have the time travel element, but in the one, it's one of my favorite endings to a movie because it's in the spirit of Evil Dead, and that it's just really mean to Ash, but in that in order to return to the time that he's from, he has to take, I think, like 5 or 6 drops of this potion. It has to be exactly that much. And so he's in the cave with his stuff. He's getting ready to, and what'll happen is he'll sleep until his age that he's from arrives. So each drop is like 100 years or something. And so he's in the cave and he's taking the drops, and then there's a noise that distracts him and he miscounts. So when he wakes up, he took too many, and he comes out of the cave, and the apocalypse has happened, and there's nobody left but him. And so it ends with him like, no, and it's done.
So bleak. Yeah.
This is Army of Darkness.
Yeah, Army of Darkness. Yep.
Awesome film. Great time travel. Again, it sort of takes on the old the Yankee in the Court of King Arthur. So that was the Mark Twain famous time travel story. So it really does take, probably it was like deliberately using that kind of idea, because he goes back to the Middle Ages and fights knights and things like this. Or else there's knights who are going up against, zombies
Deadites.
Deadites,
Yeah.
there you go. Skeleton warriors and all this kind of stuff. And he trains them because he's a guy from the future. He knows And you think, these guys like are knights, they know how to fight. Why is he training so stupid?
Yeah. It's very much a case of the modern man has the advantage kind of thing. But I mean, it's not so bad there because you don't really take the movie seriously.
Yeah, it's meant to be a joke.
Out of the three, it's probably my least favorite, but I still like it because it starts to go too much on the side of like slapstick and stuff. But yeah,
So
like
funny.
he's clearly like, yeah.
Well, that reminds me of this story that was written by, I think, the guy that made Jurassic Park.
Michael Crichton?
Yes, thank you. And it's called Timeline, and it is about this bunch of archaeologists that have constructed this. Well, I don't know if they have. I don't remember if they. I don't know. It's some kind of interdepartmental project that they have this time machine, and they go back in time to specific seeds, medieval ages seeds, and they have to be properly prepared, decked out in proper clothes, and the experts on medieval times go back there and stuff, and it's really interesting because it's basically a rescue mission because the head of the archaeological expedition is lost, and they figure out that he must be lost back in time because something happened, and they basically excavate his glasses, and they are modern glasses that are like 500 years old or something like that. So it is a very nice sort of combination between how actual archaeologists work and what it would take to be able to go back. And the people that are in medieval times are pretty, quote unquote, serious. I mean, they are not portrayed as buffoons that have no knowledge of anything and they need the modern man to show them. Actually, it's the other way around. They are the archaeologists, even though they are experts in their field, they are still fish out of water in a sense.
Yeah.
And they really don't know. Like the moment they arrive, I think the first they have like one of their guys get decapitated, like the first 15 minutes because they really don't know how to read the signs of.
If only somebody had written a thesis paper about the decapitation blade that comes out of the wall of this temple or something.
Yeah. It's like and it's a pretty nice little thriller sort of thing. They made it into a movie. I don't remember. I don't think it was as good because I read the story. But still, it was a nice little time travel, and it takes care of all the paradoxes of what is happening and how it's happening and stuff like that. So,
cool.
Yeah, it's nice. It's a clever thing to do. I remember one thing that annoyed me. Someone did a review of it and said, in these Michael Crichton books, there's he goes with the idea of that the reason why we think knights and stuff were smaller then was because the only kind of suits that survived were these show suits which were made smaller than normal, and like the real knights were bigger people, and I thought that was annoying because of course they weren't the show suits, they're actual suits people wore. You dick, you should know that. You're a writer. Do your freaking research.
That reminds me of if you see my grandfather's clothes, they fit me, but they will not fit your average Greek guy now. It's like he was a small guy, and he was a small guy for very specific reasons, Yeah.
I mean,
so it happens.
There's the idea that nutrition is a factor. So if there's periods of bad nutrition, people are going to get smaller. And in the past, people weren't that really as small as we think. They weren't tiny, and there were pockets of bigger people and had better
different
nutrition.
Regions and stuff. It's hard to make a generalization of one area doesn't represent the whole world.
And one time period doesn't represent the whole world. Yeah, like in the Industrial Revolution, people suddenly lost a few inches because there was the horrible nutrition for when people moved to the cities. So that was a bad time. But in general, people were a bit smaller, generally. The average height was lower because people have better healthcare and better childhood nutrition. That's just how it is in the modern day.
And, like, you don't have to necessarily look at clothes. We have skeletons. We have many skeletons that show us the stature that people could have had.
Yeah.
Exactly. When they died. So we know to the height they managed to reach. Yeah. The maximum height.
No, we just have a bunch of juveniles, that's all. They're all just young people.
They only buried the short people.
Yeah. To make them even shorter.
And we also know that, the whole idea of, people in the past, they only lived to if they were 40, they would be considered super old. But that wasn't true. I mean, people did have, they did die of accidents that would have been preventable for us and diseases. But most people died before they were, in their early teens or didn't reach their teens. So that's when most of them died. If you got past that, well, you'd still have a lot more chance to live until like you were 70 or 80. People got up to 90 years old and 100, back in the distant past. They still managed it. So.
Well, you just had the
not as many
bigger addition rate in general. That's the only thing. Fewer people survived to be that long, but it wasn't super rare. It was just, I guess, remarkable in a sense, because back then you have, like, the older you are, the more respect you have for surviving to that age, which is not what we have now. So.
Yes, we don't, unfortunately. But they didn't look at like a 40-year-old person or a 30-year-old person being like granny. That's a modern myth based on people's misunderstanding of life expectancy, because life expectancy is based on averages of and childhood mortality. If that's huge, that takes down that average right down. So that messes with the whole idea of life expectancy. So there's mean ages and maximums and minimums and
nice ages.
Averages. Nice ages.
From the nice ages. Sorry.
Terminator was also a time travel story.
Yeah. Oh, how could we be sleeping on Terminator? God damn it.
Oh my God, yes.
All of the Terminator ones.
To the plot, like the movies play out, like time travel is not central to like the conflict that's going on through the movie, although it's to the plot, it's very important, of course.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like Back to the Future.
Yeah. I think actually that is a very safe, I'm not trying to like downplay it, but a good way to handle time travel paradoxes, because you have someone come from the future to change that future. So you really don't need to deal with paradoxes. The paradox is the point. You want to change the future, but you don't know. Right. So everything is happening in the current timeline, and this timeline is going to be what goes from now on. So you don't really have any issues with like time travel per se.
Yeah, and they set up all the limitations and also story, like why does the robot look like a human? Well, it has to, because mechanical parts can't be sent back, only organic, so organic tissue is put around this robot. And the guy can't bring back futuristic weapons because, for the same reason, only a person can go through, only organic material. So it's just naked dudes going back.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Send them my way.
Faces alley. Yeah.
That
gonna
was
be
like
a someone
I always
now.
loved those sequences, like when he goes to get his clothes.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that was pretty iconic.
Yeah.
George Thorogood playing in the background.
It's like,
Oh, it was
Yeah.
I need
excellent.
your your boots and your motorcycle. That was much more Slavic or something, but I don't know.
But yeah, that was a cyclical movie, wasn't it? In that, I mean, spoilers for a 40-year-old movie, but the idea is that by going back in the past to change the future, he actually causes the future to happen, his particular future, in that the robot arm is left and the whole Cyberdyne Industries starts up specifically because they discover that arm and they reverse engineer it, and that jump starts the exact future that the guy came from. So
yeah. Or even the plot of the first one does the same thing as well.
Well, that's what I was talking about.
He has to go and no, what I'm talking about specifically is that he has to go back in time to make sure that Sarah Connor isn't killed so John Connor can be born, so the leader of his resistance lives as he does in his timeline.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, because I think that what you're saying was pretty much the plot of the second one, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, that wasn't that in the first one though? Like his
It might
arm
have
was
been.
left.
I've got a bad memory of the. Was it? I have a bad memory of it. You could be right.
I'm not taking any oaths on this, but I think it was the second one, like the inventor guy there chasing, trying to find this.
Miles Dyson.
Yeah.
Has it? Yeah.
It's the arm left at the end of the first movie, but I don't think that plot point exists until the second movie. That was the arm they used to begin developing.
So it's revealed that came from the first film.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
they're great, especially the second one. Like, so good.
Yeah.
The second one's my favorite.
Yeah,
mine too.
It's so
the second
good.
one had more heart to it.
Yeah.
It's just,
and I like Sarah Connor.
Core of it, the humanity of all three, of Sarah and of what's his name, John, and the robot is a character you care about even.
Yeah.
More agency in the second one.
Yeah, I think so, and it's just cooler in a lot of ways. And, and you can root for Arnold Schwarzenegger's time, and like even the T-1000, I like him a lot. He's very creepy.
Yeah,
and it does a very good job in taking what was scary about the first one and making it worse. Like, now the Terminator's on our side. What can stop us now? Well, this
guy.
liquid metal motherfucker who will wreck his shit. Like,
brilliant. One of the great.
He doesn't use guns as his main weapon either, which was even more scarier.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, that's something that they couldn't do again for some reason. Like, no other Terminator is scarier than the T-1000.
Yeah.
That actor was amazing.
Any other movie? We made like 18 of them now. But I've never seen.
Yeah.
Very dangerous in all the ways there are to be dangerous. Like, very stoic too. Like, there were. Yeah, in the scenes that might have been slightly funny, it didn't overcome how scary he was. Like, and I think it was in the third or fourth Terminator, whatever, when they have the girl Terminator, they have the scene where she makes her breasts bigger and stuff. Like, no, she's supposed to be fucking scary. Like, but
yeah, that kind of undermines the whole idea. Why would you even do that? If you're gonna make a female Terminator, might as well make her like Sarah Connor. Take out that badassness and just ramp it up.
There's an idea. Especially to fuck with John. Send his mom back to kill him.
Oh my God, yes! Oh, I would watch that. I would watch
Or like even in, because each one, it seems they try to kind of take the Terminator thing on a different kind of level. Like, what about a cyborg then, right? Like, where maybe even is like a clone of his mother or something, and like,
yeah.
Who fucking knows? I don't know. I don't want to spawn more.
Yeah, and have it come
No,
back
they did have one.
right in
Last
it,
movie.
the sweet window for Oedipal complex, like just like there, and he has to deal with that. I'm very evil, but that's what I would do.
All right, another great sci-fi future story. Well, future time travel is Future Man, a TV series which I tried to binge before it got taken off the service I was watching, and now I have to find it again. Oh, sweet. But Future Man, that is a hilarious story with people constantly traveling backwards and forwards in future. In time, in future, God, future. Just got this in the brain. Future equals time travel. No, it doesn't. I started the whole QUACKCAST off with that. But yeah, so this was written by Seth Rogen and someone else, and it's really funny. It's not funny in the stupid Seth Rogen. Oh, drugs are funny. Oh, smoking pot. I'm taking a bong. That's hilarious. Which it pisses me off because that's just so limited. But yeah, there's a lot more to it than that kind of stupid humor. And well, should I describe it? I don't know. It's sort of like The Last Starfighter in that a guy is playing a video game and he plays it really well, and he manages to beat it, and surprise, surprise, that was actually a training aid sent back in the past by these future people for this person to, to beat this video game, and it would prove they were the chosen one, and they could help them, avert this horrible future that they have. So they travel back in time to get this guy, and he turns out to be a really super disappointment nerd kind of loser, which is the kind of people who are going to be really good at video games anyway. So their training aid idea was stupid. But yeah, they come back in the past to try and kill this scientist from developing this vaccine to all diseases that turns people into superhuman monsters, and who victimize these terrible anti-vaxxers who are the last vestiges of uncorrupted humanity in the future. It's really funny. It's really entertaining. It deals with the paradoxes in a clever way. Like if they change the past that affects the future, and it totally changes it. So it's like the whole theory of when you go back in time or whatever, you're not actually really going back in time, you're really jumping dimensions or branching timelines, and each time you branch a timeline it creates a new world, and it's not the same as the one you left. And that's what's sort of happening to these people. Every time they jump into the past, they change it a little bit, and when they come back to the present's not what they remembered. There are kind of weird changes each time. Like their family will be different, or the guy's house will be different, or relationships will be different between people. One guy who was like a lowly lab tech now becomes the head of this whole company, and he's a real bastard, and all this kind of stuff. So that's a really good way of approaching that kind of stuff. The changes and how they affect the world. And in this particular show, they actually own the changes. So in some things like, I don't know, The Simpsons or whatever, or Rick and Morty, they'll have a change, but things will revert back in some way. They'll work out a way to revert it. But in this, they don't revert it. They'll keep that change, and that will affect the whole thing from then on, which is a really cool way of doing it. So, yeah. Future Man. I recommend it. It's fun. Really hot actors, too. The future characters. Sexy.
Well, I'll quickly bring up the movie that I brought up last week, because this is strangely more poignant for it since it actually has to do with time travel. But I watched Last Night in Soho. I talked about this on the Patreon for last week, I think. But the time travel concept, that one is far more supernatural. The main character has more of a psychic thing going on, and they play kind of loose with it. It starts off like she's doing the time traveling in a when she goes to sleep, but then as the movie goes, it starts to kind of invade her waking hours more and become much more stifling. Um, but I liked that movie had a really good technique to convey that the main character, who's the modern character, is kind of following this other character in the past whenever she goes back into the past, and that's like they play with reflections a lot. Like if the character in the past walks in front of the mirror, you'll see the modern girl kind of standing by her the way she's standing, but maybe kind of looking on in interest or in fright or whatever is going on, and kind of watching while this character is going on with the things that she has, the people she's interacting with or whatever. So it had this kind of neat back and forth, at least at first, to like set up that they're living kind of simultaneously in these instances. So I thought that was really cool. So
that's a good example. Yeah, I love that the reflection in the mirror or a reflection in windows and things like that. They can give someone a window into the alternative, in the past, or what their past doppelganger was doing. Think of time travel movies. Run, Lola, Run, which is a favorite of mine, where there's the three alternative kind of timelines of what happens to her. So she has to, there's a drug deal gone wrong and her boyfriend gets killed, or something bad happens to her boyfriend. So she has so much panic and so much kind of will that she wants to change. So she basically travels back in time to the moment where it all messed up and tries to repeat the whole timeline again to fix things. And that's an awesome kind of way to do it, because it's all based on time very, very strongly, and the whole thing is, time is a huge factor, like getting there too early or getting there too late, and it's disastrous on either one. She has to get there at exactly the right time, and everything has to happen at exactly the right time for her to do it. And she has 3 chances and she manages to find the perfect timeline. So yeah, that's an interesting time travel movie, and taking it in a different kind of way. So not traveling through magic or sci-fi, but just traveling through force of will back in your own timeline.
I like that.
Yeah. That's how it impacts you as a person, as a character, and what it means.
Exactly.
Like, you as a person is what matters, really, in a lot of the great time travel stories.
Yeah.
I like the butterfly effect a lot.
That's the one I was thinking about. Personally, I hated it, but I respect it.
Yeah, it's got a lot of 90s issues, like sort of cheesy 90s acting and cheesy. It's got some problems. It doesn't 100% hold up. And it breaks its own rules at one point when we're in the prison. It kind of wrecks it in a way, but
yeah,
it deals with like childhood trauma and like wishing things were different. It's very effective on that level.
Yeah, but also kind of nihilistic in the sense. I really didn't like how it resolves the problems. Let's say I don't want to spoil it.
I saw the theatrical cut. I prefer it. Just like Army of Darkness, it's got 2 different cuts.
Oh, I didn't see the theatrical cut.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, so it does have a studio ending that's like not quite as nihilistic.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Butterfly effect, I never saw it, but that whole idea was hugely influential because The Simpsons did a thing on that. Rick and Morty has done it, and everybody has done a thing where they do basically the butterfly effect, don't they?
Well, that's based on that old story by who wrote the original story, The Sound of Thunder, or the something Sound of Thunder, where someone can go back in time and they, accidentally change history by killing a dinosaur or something like that.
It's probably Arthur C. Clarke or...
Yeah, there's like a short story that's actually the genesis of that idea.
Yeah.
But it's neat when you think about if I could go back and change this and change that, like I wish I could, There was a great Star Trek episode where Picard gets to go back, and he was a wild kid when he was younger, and for that reason he ended up getting in a fight and getting hurt. He has an artificial heart, and that causes him to almost die in the future. And he gets a chance to go back, and like if you had half a brain back then, if you weren't such an idiot, you would have survived. So he gets to go back and fix some of the rough edges from his past, and then he goes back into his own future and realizes it ruined everything. The fact that so it's a very cool episode. I think it's called Tapestry.
Oh, wow. Neat.
That's clever. Wow. So there we are. So not only paradoxes, but butterfly effects. Fractal kind of branching errors that keep on perpetuating and spreading out more and more and more. So yeah.
Simple lines intertwining.
So yeah, the whole idea of time travel is, of course, theoretically possible because everything is symmetrical in that, like in physics, most things are symmetrical. That's just the way it is, and time is stuff that happens in time can happen both ways. There's no reason why it only has to happen one way. But for us in reality, of course, there's, cause and effect, and we only travel one way through time. So that's why the idea that, time travel is possible. That's why people do think it is still possible, because it's possible in mathematics and, physics, even though we can't do it. Oh, we can, that's one way. But yeah, they have done various scientific or mathematical, theoretical ideas for how it could be possible. There's the billiard ball idea of if you could hit a bunch of billiard balls around a table, and if there's I cannot recall this bloody thing, but if could the ball hit itself and cause itself to go around and do this stuff, or whatever. Anyway, it's proven that it is theoretically possible to do time travel, but we absolutely have no idea how to do it. Probably the only way would be to use a wormhole or something like that. But
does that billiard ball become its own grandpa? Is that what happens?
I think it has sex with its grandpa, and it...
Well, isn't there some kind of... I don't know the ins and outs of this, so maybe I'm just mumbling hippy-dippy bullshit. But isn't... I don't know how proven it is, but isn't there a theory time, or at least the perception of time, because that's really the only way that we experience time, right? Is through our own perception. So that time goes slower or faster. I think slower, say for instance, in the International Space Station compared to on Earth.
Yeah.
That's because it goes faster the closer you are to a gravity well. There's a relativity. Okay. So if you're on Jupiter, time would travel faster, I think.
Stupider, because that's where boys go. Stupider.
But yeah, that's true. Time is a bit slower out there because they're further away from the gravity well of Earth. It's a good point. And of course, if you were to travel at relativistic speeds, time would travel super slowly for you. So you could literally go into the future if you were traveling at almost the speed of light. And by the time you got off it, you'd only 5 minutes would pass for you, but 100 years would pass for everyone else. So that's a plausible thing, but you just got to have enough energy to travel that fast and to be able to accelerate that fast without getting killed.
Well, I mean, in terms of physics, like you were saying, everything having an equal and opposite reaction and the laws of symmetry and stuff, if it's taken that we're literally going forward in time, something would have had to cause that reaction for us to go forward. So then would it be that whatever caused that reaction for us to go forward naturally go backwards? I don't know. Go find out. Go make a thesis paper about it.
Yeah.
So we can go back in time and play with dinosaurs. Not me, though. I'm scared of them.
Yeah.
We'll go back in time and kill all the T-Rexes so they can't harm you. Or go back in time and
Maybe you already did.
Do the QUACKCAST. Yeah, that's why there aren't any, because we piloted a meteor into the Earth and destroyed them all. Although I think T-Rex has probably died out before that. I don't know anything about it.
As you sent the meteorite barreling into Earth, you screamed, "For Pit Face!" One of many great mass extinctions.
Exactly. Oh, jeez. Oh, well, we're going to be traveling in different directions now through time because we're going to end the QUACKCAST and go our separate ways. All right. Thank you for listening to QUACKCAST number 582.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
See you next time.
Ah.
It all comes together.